Alex Shin. Great job, Alex. You are an Ironman.
Welcome back to Tiny Calves, where I was focused on completing an Ironman in under 4 months. As you can see by the t-shirt here, on September 25th, 2022, I successfully completed Ironman Chattanooga. In this upcoming video, we're going to be focusing on each individual portion of the race and things that went really well and things that could be improved upon next time. So without further ado, let's jump right into the swim section. All right, we're gonna start off with the swim. Now, this was a 2.4 mile swim, and if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that it was a point-to-point swim. The way that this worked was all the athletes that competed in the Ironman took a bus from the transition zone, which was Ross's Landing. They took a bus all the way up to this entry zone, and then starting at 7:30 in the morning, everyone entered in for the swim. A little shot on how people were entering into the water. There were 3 platforms that you would jump off of. There was a beeping noise that beeped every 10 seconds, which signaled for the next swimmer in line to jump off the platform. After you were in, there were these buoys that were marked every 100 meters. And at the halfway point, these yellow buoys changed to an orange buoy. Finally, there was a red buoy at the end just prior to exiting out of the water. Overall, I was extremely surprised by the swim section as I completed it in 52 minutes. If you remembered from a previous video, I allotted approximately 90 minutes for this. So when I finished the swim, I was extremely surprised that I did it in that amount of time. I went immediately into the transition, and the transition took approximately 12 minutes. The things that I was really grateful in the transition, I had multiple towels and nutrition ready in my transition bag. So as soon as I was changing my clothes, I took my wetsuit off. I was eating something right away. The transitions took a little bit of time because when you got out of the water, you had about a quarter-mile travel time in order to get into the changing tent. After you were changed into your biking outfit, you had to walk 100 to 200 meters to get your bike, and then you were off to the races. This here is the full gas biking course. It was 116 miles, 2 loops to complete it, and then a short little string here to get to those 2 loops. This right here is the transition zone and essentially where you were to start your bike course. For the first 5 to 10 miles, it was relatively rough. There was a lot of bumps in the road, and also there were multiple railroad tracks that you had to cross over. Luckily, any bumps that were encountered on the road were actually marked with yellow or orange spray paint. After you got through the first portion, you entered these 2 large 40 to 50 mile loops that were very smooth and scenic. There were water stations and fuel stations every 10 to 15 miles, depending on where you were in the course. The biking course went surprisingly well. I remembered during a practice ride when I was riding here in Columbia, Missouri, that I pushed a little too hard going up the hills, and I was getting a little bit of knee pain on my right side. I was focused on conserving energy and refueling. Something that's very, very important when you're doing any type of Ironman or any triathlon in general is if you need to refuel, the bike portion is where you can do it. You're able to carry the most amount of nutrition. You're not having very high heart rates or respiratory rates, so you're able to consume that nutrition. And also, if you are having to go to the bathroom, it's pretty easy to get on and off the bike and go to the bathroom. I found that I consumed on average 200 to 300 calories per hour. I finished the bike in 6 hours and 36 minutes, which was just a touch over my predicted time of 6:30. Transition 2 was much smoother than transition 1. because I was familiar with the tent and was able to not have to get out of the wetsuit. The final portion of the race was the run. To get oriented here, this is the transition zone, and this was a 2-loop course where essentially you would go out along the highway, loop back through a park, which was very nice to run along the riverside. You'd go over Veterans Bridge here, do another loop in another neighborhood, come back over Walnut Street Bridge, and then you would do this loop again. Something I want to bring your attention to was the second half of the course. The second half of the course was very hilly and much more difficult than the first half of the course. There were multiple half-mile to a mile-long hills that were quite steep and draining. At the beginning of the run, my legs felt a little tired, but they were able to perform. The first 5 to 10 miles felt great. Despite the sun coming out and the temperature being in the low 80s, I was able to continue my pace around 9 to 10 minutes per mile. Now, the wheels kind of fell off the bus on the second half of the course, where there were many hills that were very difficult and very long. There were multiple hills that were half a mile to a mile and were quite steep that required me to walk up them. This dropped my time down quite a bit. On top of the hills, my legs on the second lap were extremely tired, and I had to rely on previous experience in order to power through the second half of the course. I ended up completing the run in about 4 hours and 46 minutes, which was 46 minutes longer than my anticipated run time. So, overall, how would I summarize this event? This was a fantastic event. It's much different than any of the other races that I've done previously. Something to know is whenever you do an Ironman event, it's more of an experience than just going for one day to do the race. There are multiple events on Saturday, and the race doesn't start until even Sunday. To sum things up, first takeaway is Ironman is like any other race that I have ever done. It is more of an experience than going just to complete the race. Number 2, I would focus more next time on running with tired legs, whether that being doing multiple training routes after doing a bike ride, working my legs out in the gym, and then going and doing a run. But make sure that you have ample amount of training with tired legs built into your pre-race workouts. And finally, a big takeaway is for this race in particular, the swim is way less terrifying than I previously imagined. From a cognitive standpoint, the swim terrified me the most because it was in open water. It was 2.5 miles, and I was always concerned about whether or not I was going to be able to make it. My advice for anyone doing an Ironman is to enjoy your time in the water and really use that more of a warm-up swim and to mentally get you ready for the rest of the race. On the bike, it is so important to really focus on nutrition. Make sure you're hydrated. Make sure that you're able to recover from the swim and also that you're ready to do the run. It is 100% worth doing this. You get so much confidence, not only in your athletic life, but also just in life in general. And it doesn't hurt that you get a massive medal. Now, what's next? Well, we're going to take a little break from filming, training for a new event in the spring of 2023. I don't want to give it away yet. Please keep up to date with me. And as always, if you're training out there or you see other people, please continue to encourage them and keep at it.